A light rail train was derailed this morning in Tumun. Health expert warns of the threat from new variants of COVID and flu. Immigration Department plans to recruit 100 new officers. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A light rail train was derailed at Chung Ok Chun Stop in Tumun this morning. Service was suspended between Lam Tay and Hung Shui Q stops. No one was injured. Police arrested a 49-year-old truck driver who is suspected of dropping a piece of wooden plank on the train track when driving past the site. Memo Sangai was at the scene.
After the incident, the affected light rail train remained at the Chung Ok Chun stop in Tumun. Chunks of concrete blocks that were laid on the track were crushed by the train during the incident. MTR contractors removed the damaged blocks. Workers dug up the concrete debris before putting them into a bag. Police received reports at 9:43 a.m. that a light rail train was derailed at Chung Ok Chun stop. The MTR said the two-carriage train was empty of any passengers at the time and it was on its way to Tumun depot when the accident happened. This woman witnessed what happened. I heard some sound. The train screeched against the track. Dust was in the air, she recalled. The railway company said the derailment was caused by a foreign object on the train track, leading to the derailment of a bogie underneath the first carriage of the train. 4 light rail train routes were affected because of the accident. Services were suspended between Lam Tin and Hung Shui Q stations. MTR arranged free shuttle buses for residents to travel between the Hong Tin Road emergency platform and Siu Hong. The student said the MTR's announcement of the arrangement was clear.
Some notice and to tell me we can following clearly.
At around 11 a.m., MTR raised the carriage not involved in the derailment. The affected train carriage was towed away just before 1 p.m. and light rail train services later resumed.
Even after the affected light rail train was towed away, many MTR staff remained on the site to help in the clear-up.
Michael Tin, who was the chairman of the former railway operator KCR, says such a derailment incident caused by a foreign object is rare, adding it has never happened in the past 25 years.
It's a pretty sizable piece of wood, and there's no excuse for the driver not having seen that. But what if next time it's actually a small object? And it's highly possible that for any human being that they cannot detect it. You guys got to start investigating, putting a sensor on the train like a car cam. As it detects anything that's on the rail, as it go forward, it sends a signal either to the driver to stop it or automatically slow the train down.
Lawmaker Gary Zhang, who used to work at the MTR, said MTR could use artificial intelligence cameras to monitor and analyze road situations to prevent similar accidents from happening again. News 9, TVB News.
The Security Bureau will submit an amendment bill to the Legislative Council in July at the earliest, targeting non-compliance of authorities' orders to carry out fire safety improvement works. It's understood that the tabling of the Fire Safety Buildings Ordinance Amendment Bill was expedited after the deadly fire at New Lucky House on Jordan Road in Yau Ma Tei. Under the bill, the government will reach out to registered contractors to complete the required fire safety improvement works for the building. The fees would then be shouldered by the owner's corporation or the owners of the building. There will be penalties if the owners fail to pay. It is understood priority will be given to 3 new buildings or buildings with only 1 staircase. A new COVID variant on Hong Kong's pandemic radar. Epidemiologist Professor Ivan Hung said KP.2 is set to become the dominant coronavirus variant in Hong Kong in a few weeks. With a high level of transmissibility, 1 patient who contracts KP.2 can infect around 15 people. A new set of coronavirus variants, KP.2, has been detected in sewage surveillance samples in Hong Kong. Dr. Ivan Hung, Chair Professor of the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Hong Kong and Chief of Infectious Diseases, said COVID variant JN.1 now accounts for 80% of the total COVID case numbers. KP.2 makes up around 15%, but that's set to change. Based on the situation in the United States, KP.2 can become the dominant COVID strain in 2 or 3 weeks. Hong Kong is expecting a similar rate of prevalence.
呢啲唔同嘅病毒株咧，其實都
Speaking on a radio program, Hong said the new COVID variants are part of the Omicron family, which are more transmissible. One patient can infect 14 to 15 people, and KP.2 can be even more infectious, Hong said. But he noted that the mortality rate and severity of complications of KP.2 are weaker than JN.1. Still, the elderly or high-risk people should receive the XBB vaccine as soon as possible and wear masks in crowded places.
X3 完咗之後咧，其實就做最近嘅。
Hong believes the flu virus will continue to hound the community for 1 to 2 more months before subsiding in July. Hong expects that the next wave of outbreaks involving the H3 flu virus to surface between August and September. 2 holders of two-way exit permits were arrested on suspicion of burglary by climbing up scaffolding used for maintenance works. The attempted break-in happened in the early hours of Friday at a housing estate in Fo Tan. 2 men tried to flee the site after residents discovered that they tried to climb into a flat from the scaffolding on the outer wall. Aged 38 and 40, the suspects were detained by police. Since April, 12 apartments in the Fo Tan housing estate currently under maintenance have been burgled, involving a total loss of about $78,000. The Immigration Department is holding its Recruitment Experience Day for 2 days. The department aims to recruit 380 staff members this year, including 100 immigration officers. A familiar scene for many Hong Kong people, but what is the actual work and training like for immigration officers? Some residents were able to experience all that at the Immigration Service Institute of Training and Development in Tuen Mun after registration. A mock court available to learn more about the work process of the Immigration Department's prosecutors, from assessing the evidence to attending court trials. Go to the tactical training ground and feel the weight of the equipment. A prerequisite to join most discipline services, passing physical fitness tests. This year, more than 2,500 people signed up for the Experience Day, 64% more than last year. The Immigration Department said because of the enthusiastic response, an additional afternoon session will be held on Sunday. This participant, a fresh university graduate, said the department has a diverse range of work which could help to grow his self-discipline, teamwork, and communication skills. This female participant said she wants to be part of the anti-terrorism squad as she can learn a lot from the team. The Immigration Department aims to hire 380 officers this year. They include 100 immigration officers.
The post of immigration officer is popular among applicants looking for jobs at law enforcement agencies.
Last year, an average of 73 candidates vied for one position. The department's recruitment period this year closes on June the 3rd. The Hong Kong Council on Smoking and Health recommended that the government further expand non-smoking areas in the city and ban flavored tobacco products. The council suggested that the no-smoking areas be extended to 10 meters from the waiting areas for public transport. It also suggested a ban should be introduced against smoking while walking on streets. Alongside the strengthening of cigarette packaging regulations, the council hopes that these measures can help drive down the city's smoker numbers to below 7.8% next year. It will be the World No Tobacco Day on the 31st of this month. The council will hold a smoke-free sportswear day on that day, rallying the support of companies, groups, hospitals, and schools. The campaign aims to encourage the public to put on sportswear and do more exercise while spreading the tobacco-free message. Overseas, a temporary pier of the Gaza coast built by the U.S. military has opened, and the first convoy of trucks have crossed into the Palestinian territory. The White House hopes the floating dock can accommodate enough seaborne aid to fill up to 150 trucks a day. However, agencies say it is still far short of the 500 trucks needed to ease the suffering of more than 2 million people who are short of food, water, and medicines. Nasi Karim with more.
A ship and newly built floating pier in the distance, off the coast near northern Gaza. Trucks waiting for around 308 pallets to come on shore. Around 150 trucks were reportedly involved in the first delivery of aid from the US-built temporary pier, as the bombs continue to drop. The jetty opens a new route for food and supplies to enter the devastated territory, where famine has already been declared in the north.
I was told right before coming out here that the UN has now taken possession of these first pallets and are getting them ready for distribution inside Gaza. So, look, I mean, hopefully by the time we're done here, I mean, some of that stuff will actually be in the mouths of some hungry people, but we'll see.
The supplies are arriving from Cyprus, where they are being vetted by Israeli officials. However, the main land route, such as the Rafah crossing, remains closed as Israel prepares for a major offensive of the southern district, which is sheltering more than 1 million people.
Aid is welcome in any form that it comes into Gaza, but I think Mercy Corps is trying to stress the point that while this will increase the volume, that we really think the solution is to opening all land routes and hastening inspections so aid can more expeditiously reach people at scale across Gaza.
Meanwhile, the Israeli military said its troops in Gaza found the bodies of 3 Israeli hostages taken by Hamas during its October 7th attack. The military identified the 3 bodies as Itzhak Galarenta, 56, German-Israeli Shani Luk, 22, and Amit Buskila, 28. It said all 3 were killed when Palestinian groups led by Hamas attacked Israel 7 months ago. The 3 were at the Nova Music Festival, an outdoor dance party near Gaza, and their bodies were taken across the border. More than 100 hostages are still held by Hamas. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
And still ahead, top officials in Canada ask Canadians not to use TikTok. The White House is concerned about the China-Russia relationship. Chinese tourists visit Cuba visa-free. Welcome back. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the country's intelligence chief are urging Canadians against using the popular social media app TikTok, saying user information will be sent to China. TikTok rejected the accusations. Daniel Zhou has more.
The Director of Canadian Security Intelligence Service, David Vigneault, called on Canadians not to use TikTok during an interview with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. He alleged data from its users is available to the Chinese government and described TikTok as a threat to Canadian data security. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Friday called on the public to heed his intelligence chief's warning. He said the Canadian government will continue to look closely at the safety of Canadians while carefully following TikTok's response to the US ban.
TikTok collects on all of its users, gets simply funneled to the government of China, and is used to, potentially for nefarious purposes. We know that a lot of people, particularly young people, enjoy using TikTok, and we need to make sure that that usage is safe.
TikTok rejected the accusations, saying the assertions are unsupported by evidence and that the firm will continue to engage with Canadian officials. A spokesperson pointed out TikTok has never shared Canadian user data with the Chinese government, nor would they if asked to. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
At least 1 person was killed and 8 others injured following Russian airstrikes in Odessa on Friday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that his country's task is to thwart Russia's attempt to expand the war. Tracy Furness has more.
Were killed after Russian airstrikes targeted Ukraine's second largest city. The daytime attack also injured 25 people. This 82-year-old Kharkiv resident said, "I laid on my bed and then I heard 1 boom, then 2nd boom, then 3rd boom. That's it." This Kharkiv resident said, "It's very sad to watch all this because I will remember my childhood with explosions, shellings. It's not cool. Ukrainian and Kharkiv residents are already used to this." On Thursday, the air alarm sounded for more than 16 hours, a record since the beginning of the military campaign by Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Friday that Ukraine's task is to thwart Russia's attempt to expand the war and to prevent the occupier from breaking both the front line and our diplomacy. He also said he was working with all his partners to help provide Ukraine with more air defense protection.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has wrapped up his trip to China, emphasizing a new era of partnership between the two countries. The White House said it takes seriously the burgeoning relationship between China and Russia, and especially concerning the war in Ukraine.
In Ukraine specifically, we haven't seen President Xi rush to the effort to assist the Russian armed forces and provide lethal capabilities. We are deeply concerned about some of these Chinese companies that are providing microelectronics and components for Russia's defensive weapon systems. That's a problem, and we've raised that with the Chinese as well.
Kirby also said that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are two leaders that don't have a long history of working together and are not necessarily all that trustful of the other. A former French prime minister said China has been a major force in maintaining global peace and is an engine for global economic growth. Jean-Pierre Raffarin was speaking in an interview with China media group CMG. Raffarin said China's presence in global affairs has become more and more crucial. He said he has many expectations for China, most importantly concerning peace and economic growth. Raffarin served as Prime Minister of France from 2002 to 2005. The first set of visa-free tourists from China arrived in the Cuban capital, Havana, on Friday. A water salute greeted some 116 passengers at Havana's Jose Marti International Airport aboard an Air China flight. The salute is traditionally used to celebrate aviation milestones. It signaled the restart of the regular route between Beijing and Havana as part of a Cuban government strategy to attract visitors from non-traditional markets for its ailing tourist sector. Cuba recently announced that it would eliminate the visa requirement for Chinese tourists arriving at the island before the COVID-19 pandemic, when the tourism industry was thriving. 4.2 million people visited Cuba. In 2023, the figure was 2.4 million. The latest tiny pacemakers are bringing hope to premature babies with life-threatening congenital heart diseases. American cardiologists have spent years adapting the existing pacemakers for use in tiny, critically ill newborn babies. NBC has more.
Abigail Kim spends most of her days smiling and cooing, a life made possible because of a pacemaker the size of a pill.
I had run out of hope, and this device gave us hope.
Her parents, Dan and Kelsey, knew it was the only option. It's the smallest pacemaker ever created, no bigger than a penny, designed for premature babies with deadly heart defects like Abby's.
Abigail!
She's one of the first infants in the world to receive one.
Who is the ideal candidate for this tiny pacemaker?
The ones that are too small to get a regular device. And so I would say babies that are between 2 and 6 pounds.
Dr. Charlie Barol, a pediatric cardiologist at Children's National Hospital, has spent decades trying to find a better way to help those infants.
Most of the time this is done for what we call congenital heart block, where the top part of the heart isn't communicating with the bottom part, and so the heart rate is just too slow.
But some pacemakers are just too big for a premature baby. That's where these new devices come in. Doctors can now place the mini pacemakers in a baby's stomach and connect it to their heart. Abby's parents, who lost a stillborn infant son to similar heart problems, are thankful.
How hard was it to hear that your next pregnancy, Abigail, also had a heart condition?
I mean, it's like the world collapsed all over again.
We were just hoping for a miracle.
It's keeping Abby alive. We actually got a miracle with Abigail.
Can she give me one more kiss?
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.